Welcome back to Red Hawk Media. Today we're taking a second look at iMovie. Yesterday we talked about importing and exporting in our first episode, and today we're going to talk about some of the bells and whistles of iMovie. I've got a clip that I've already imported here, and this is just our little outro that we use for our episodes here. You'll probably see it at the end of this one, but I'm going to go ahead and drag that down into my timeline. Now, one note, I noticed this a lot yesterday with my students, is when you're dragging clips into the timeline, make sure you drag it into the primary timeline. It's easy to actually drag clips into a secondary timeline that's up above, and then they become attachments of the top one. You can see the blue line here that's connecting this clip wherever I move it. So be careful to drag clips into the primary timeline unless they're overlays or things like that. I'm going to get rid of that one. And here's our outro. Really simple, just a basic After Effects animation here and some text that comes on there. Okay, now some of the bells and whistles here of what's going on. We talked about cutting clips yesterday. So if you take your clip and you select part of it, or you put your playhead at a certain point, you can actually split the clip there. Command B actually splits the clip. So wherever the playhead is, I can hit Command B, and that will split everything up. Okay, I've got some different transitions in here, transition areas now that I've created. That's the first thing I'm going to start with down in the content library. This lower left-hand corner is going to be actually our focus for today. Everything that's down here is all made to be click and drag, basically. Click and drag. That's the theme. Now, with transitions to begin with, one of the nice things about iMovie that was different and an add-on to the recent additions is you can fade or you can scrub over the video to see what it looks like. Now, scrubbing is a term that you use whenever you drag the cursor over your video and it plays it through, if you're unfamiliar with that terminology. So I can scrub over these and see exactly what they do. Okay, so whichever one I happen to like, I go ahead and click on that, and then I can drag that in as a transition. You can put it between clips, before clips, after clips, and so on and so forth. So I add that in. Now you can see that my duration, let me move my playhead here so you can see this a little bit better. Automatically there is a preset on iMovie of a 1-second transition. Okay. We're going to stick with that for now. In the future, we'll talk about how maybe we can change that and come up with some more interesting stuff here. I'm going to add in a cross dissolve into the other one here, and I'm just randomly dropping these in. There's no rhyme or reason. So if I want to play through this, now I've got my transition, and then I've got my cross dissolve coming up here, and that didn't do a whole lot of anything, did it? Because it was cross dissolving into the same exact thing. So let's try a different one there. Now, if I don't like a transition, I go ahead and click on it like so, and then I delete that out of there. And let's do a wipe up. Okay, which has its applications at times. And again, that didn't do a whole lot of nothing because of the same thing. Let's do a cross zoom that we should be able to notice. And here we go. Zoom. There we go. So you can use this to emphasize different things. So that's transitions. Next thing on our list, we've got titles. Taking a look at the titles here, same exact ordeal. It brings up all of your titles on top here. If I scrub over any of these, I can see if there's any animation on these. Ooh, fanciness. We got lens flares. Okay. And if I like something, I go ahead and click on it, and I drag that on here. Okay. Now, the title is on there. It's 4 seconds by default, and then it brings up my editor over here. Now, some of the titles you can edit a lot, and some of them you can edit very little. The one limitation for titles is that in iMovie, you can't move them. Okay? So this center lens flare effect is set up just for the middle. I can't grab a hold of it and move it up to the top like I would like to do right now for this particular screen. Some of them I can't even change the color on. This one in particular I can highlight, and then I can go up to my color palette up here, and I can choose something else for my color there. Okay, I can bold it. I can put it in italics. I can change the font on it to some extent. Fonts are generally pretty limited in iMovie, but there are some options in here. And if you're creative with all of this, you can make titles work for you in iMovie. Okay. Now this one obviously is not going to work simply because I've got it sitting right in the middle of everything. Okay. And even though it's got a cool little effect there with that lens flare, that's going to kind of cover up the other stuff. So I'd want to find one that's going to sit right at the top in the center for this particular situation. And looking through here, I'm not necessarily seeing one quite like that. So I may grab something more like this. Now these bars are kind of like our lower thirds that we came up with, and I can drag these down. Now, here's something to note. This is one of the first limitations of iMovie. I've got a primary timeline, and then I have one secondary timeline for overlays over the top. Notice how I can't stack this right on top of my Red Hawk Media here. So I could drag this one down here, and then I'd have to get rid of my Red Hawk Media one to actually move this over and make it useful so that I can see it. And then if I want to edit it, I can come up here, and I can double click on whatever I want to edit. And let's go ahead and type in our Red Hawk Media here. And then the description. We're talking titles and such. Actually, let's just change this right up to the content library. That's what we're working in today. Content library. All right. So we've got everything pieced together. Now, again, if I want to change anything, I've got my settings right up here for what I can change. So in this case, let's take it back so we get some more color options. Drag it over to my red. Click OK there. Let's bold this so we can see it. Let's italicize it, make it exciting. And then we've got it all set here. And then, of course, my text as well. What kind of text or font that I want to use. So that's all set up. Now, I would probably want this to come on or come off. However, I can drag this out longer to keep it on for more seconds or have it cut off just before my transition. I could keep it on there the whole time, like such. And then let's see how this interacts with my transition. It stays up there. It has no effect whatsoever. So there we have it. Okay, that's titles. So far, transitions, titles, now onto maps and backgrounds. Maps and backgrounds is actually a very useful area. Not so much for the maps because the maps are pretty generic. If I were actually going to do something like this, where I was going to do the whole Indiana Jones traveling from one location to another location type thing, I'd probably use Google Earth these days because it's got a much cooler satellite view and it's a little bit more customizable. Although these are pre-made and they kind of work a little bit here, feel free to tinker with them as you wish. But one of the things that is useful is down here. I've got a number of solids that are down here, layers that I can drop in that are pre-made. These are animated. They actually work pretty well if you're going to create kind of like a slideshow type thing and you need something subtle in the background to set text over the top. It'd be good for presentations. Pinstripes, I don't know so much. It's pretty industrial looking. Now, this one and this one, the black and white solids are very useful. There are a number of times, just yesterday in fact, when we were importing clips where people are asking about how can I put a title just over a whole lot of nothing. This is your chance. So I can grab the black here, and I can go ahead and drag that in as its own piece of the timeline here. And automatically it sets it up as 4 seconds. That's the default. And now I just have black video, no audio, nothing or anything like that. But what it does is it gives me the opportunity to go back to my titles now and maybe grab that cool like lens flare looking thing here and then drag that in. And now I can go into my lens flare and get my Red Hawk Media typed on this, and then customize that however we want. So let's go with the red really quick. Drag that over and OK and bold and italics. And let's come up with, I wonder if they have ESP in here. Not so much. Chalk Duster, don't think so. Let's go with that one. There we go. All right, and italics. Boom. All right, so now I've got a black background for my title to sit over. Hey, there we go. So that's how we can add in things for overlays and different stuff like that. I can do the same thing with the white background. I think you get the idea. So again, that was maps and backgrounds, and there's a bunch of different solids that are created in here. And they're all very useful for basically placeholders. Okay, now another feature that's kind of handy is also I'm going to be needing some music to drop in here. Okay, the music is linked right up to your iTunes, so whatever you have in your iTunes playlists, I can come in here and I've got a whole list of different stuff. Yeah, Elvis, Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me. Whatever it may be, I can go ahead and drag that. I've got some, let's see here, this is a stinger that was made. I can grab this. It's a 16-second stinger. It's an MP3. It's already all set up to work with my iMovie. I can bring that in, and now I'm going to have some music that's actually in here. You can see that down there. Perfect. Okay, this is a great way to get music in here for our purposes and for the content specific to YouTube. I'm not going to go ahead and play this. All right, now another thing, as we start to get into more features and our projects get more complex, we may want sound effects. Now, the sound effects in here are linked up to your GarageBand. Okay, in GarageBand, we've got a bunch of different things that are pre-made that are kind of useful. You can preview them right up here, and I can listen to that, go through, open and close the door, and there's quite a list of them here. It grabs out basically everything from the ambient, the animal foley and jingles, and then sound effects area as well. So it's kind of cool. And then there's some pre-made stingers that are in here. Basically anything that's in GarageBand, I can take out of there and drag in here. It's set up to work hand in hand. Now, if I've got a GarageBand project, I can also bring up GarageBand specifically, and then I could bring that in. At this time, I don't have any GarageBand projects that are set up for this. So I can go to my GarageBand folder and see if there's anything in there. No, I don't have anything in there presently. But one of the cool features, I would say, between iMovie and GarageBand is I can work on the video here, and then I can send it over to GarageBand to work on the sound, and then I can do my final export, which is pretty slick because then I can really do a lot of the setting things on sound that help me do all that. For instance, in iMovie down here on my stinger, I can go ahead and grab the sides here, and I can do a fade in for however long I want here, and then I can do a fade out on the other end. Oh, let's grab the little thing here. And do a fade out. I can trim the song by bringing it in. I can cut the song as well. Same exact way I cut the clips. I go Command B, make sure that your MP3 is selected, Command B, and that cuts it. So I can do all those things, and then I can take the level of the audio up by percentages or down by percentages or not at all. Okay, so I can bring that in there up and down. Okay, so that's kind of a quick overall view of the content library of what's available in there. We're going to be using these things throughout the unit as we're looking at iMovie, and all of these things will directly correlate with what we will be doing in Final Cut as well. So if you're just learning video editing software, this is a great starting point, and then you will see these things reoccurring in almost every video editing software hereafter. For us, it'll be Final Cut. Okay, one more thing I would show you too. As the projects start to get longer, and they get a little bit more difficult to scroll back and forth on, this one is not that example, but what you can do is you've got your slider up here for magnification, and I can take this and compress down my project to make it much easier to work on. Or, on the other hand, if I want to make really minute frame-by-frame changes, I can take this and stretch it all the way out, and then the clips become obnoxiously long, and they make it a little bit easier to pinpoint problems here. Okay, that's a great start to our content library. Thanks for joining us today with another episode of Red Hawk Media. Bye.